Welcome back into the lunch break. Chris Schubert with you, KDUS AM 1060. We started off so hot with the program today. I think I mentioned producer Evan was behind the glass, but I didn't say hello to producer Evan. I didn't ask how his day was going. I didn't even check in with you. I apologize.
Day's good. Had to do some training this morning in the morning meeting.
Yeah, you're causing a little bit of a brouhaha in the building because I got an email today. You have been working here for about a month now, and there was some training that, according to you, you started but didn't complete.
Yes.
And I got an email saying, listen, Evan's got to complete this or else he's in big trouble. That's what the email said. So I'm like, dude, now I'm getting in trouble, and I did the training. I've worked here for over a year. I did the training on my first day. We're in month 3?
2. Maybe 3.
Maybe 3. That's how math works. So you got us into a little bit of trouble. But your training, you worked on it this morning. It's going to be done by the end of the day. No more problems. But you caused a little brouhaha this morning.
I did.
It's okay, though. It's okay.
Yeah, in fairness, I don't think I clicked the right buttons to complete the training at the time.
It was user error, but it's okay. It's okay. We're going to correct it. No more problems. But you did. You got us both into a little bit of hot water this morning. I smoothed it over. I made sure to be like, hey, by the end of the day, Evan's going to have the training done. I'm going to make sure. I did stand over you at one point to make sure you were just clicking the right buttons. I didn't want us to be in this same spot 2 weeks from now. But it feels like everything's – well, other than that, though, day's great?
Day's great.
Fantastic.
Great. Got a good start to the morning today. Went to Costco, picked up like a cold brew yesterday, so I poured myself my own coffee this morning.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Good
stuff. Better
than the one you pay $14 for at the local coffee shop?
Certainly cheaper.
Well,
cheaper.
Yes, anything
so that makes it better.
Home. Yeah. Well, yeah. Anytime you keep more money in your own pockets, normally a good thing.
Yeah. So good start to the day.
Good start to the day. That's fantastic. It was a hot start to the show, talking about Corbin Burns and awaiting that MRI result. About 10 minutes from now, we will talk about. We didn't touch on this at all yesterday, and that's my fault, but we were just so busy trying to figure out if we were going to get the Corbin Burns news and focusing on that being the big story that we didn't really dive deep into Brandon Pfaadt and his start on Saturday. So I do want to touch on that and whether or not it is a worrying thing for the future. And so we'll get to that in about 10 minutes from now. But some desperation perhaps starting to set in the offices in downtown Phoenix for the Phoenix Suns. No, not as to who their new head coach is going to be, although we're down to 2, and it looks like sooner rather than later we will know if it will be Johnny Bryant or Jordan Ott as the next head coach of the Phoenix Suns.
I did see a report yesterday that it would be done by Friday.
Yeah, so you're going to win that bet. You should have really pushed for us to make that bet on the air because you would have won that one. I mean, they had 9 names, 6 names. I thought it was going to take a little bit. They wanted to do in-person interviews. One of the coaches that was on the list is still playing. His team's still in the finals. You would have to
imagine they didn't even do an in-person interview with him.
Or they did his interview first and they went to him.
Yeah. Also, did you hear that both guys are going to Michigan to interview with Matt Ishbia?
That's where Matt Ishbia. I mean, you've heard Jordan Ott was a coach at Michigan State, right?
Was he?
You've heard that Matt Ishbia went to Michigan State, right? Was a walk-on, played there. Brian Gregory, general manager, was a coach, longtime assistant for Tom Izzo at Michigan State.
Really?
So Michigan's got a lot to do with what's going on here. So I didn't know if you knew that. So I
didn't.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
But advantage Jordan Ott if they're going to interview in Michigan.
No,
I heard they're doing it in East Lansing, actually.
No, I think advantage Matt Ishbia because he just wants the convenience of not needing to travel back to Phoenix. He spends most of his time in Michigan. That's where his business is. That's where the mortgage company is. So he spends a lot.
And that's where he went to college too, right?
Oh no, the mortgage company's in Ohio, maybe Michigan, Ohio, somewhere in the Midwest, somewhere over there. And yeah, he went to Michigan State.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Shocking. First time we've ever heard about it. You know what would be interesting? The owner went to Michigan State. GM was a coach at Michigan State. And then if they hired a head coach that coached at Michigan State, you know what that would be to me?
The alignment.
That would be very aligned. That'd be a very aligned way.
And you would have to say the optics on that would be awesome.
Oh, I mean,
everybody would love that.
You would just talk about how they're all going to speak the same language. They're going to understand each other. They're cut from the same cloth. Everything would just go swimmingly. It'd be great. And they'd be
the alignment.
And we know that that's very important for what they're trying to do. There's not a single person out there that would say that hiring somebody with Michigan State ties would be a bad optic for the Phoenix Suns. I don't think there's anybody out there that would say that if they hired Jordan Ott. Nobody, not a single person.
No.
At some point this week, we'll know whether or not it's Jordan Ott or whether it's Johnny Bryant. Yesterday, we made the case this needs to be Johnny Bryant or bust, I think. The Jordan Ott thing would be a cloud hovering over this organization in a big way, that it would take a lot to make that cloud disappear. But we'll see. They're going to do the 2 in-person interviews, and hopefully by the end of the week, we get an answer so we can actually evaluate who the next head coach of this team is going to be. But the desperation around this team may have more to do with their next big offseason item on the to-do list, because after hiring a general manager, after hiring a head coach, the next thing that this team needs to do, and there appears to be some level of urgency about this, is trading Kevin Durant. Was reading a story in The Athletic today from the Houston Rockets perspective, and they were mentioning in the story that their interest in Devin Booker has cooled, that they're just no longer as interested as they were in the past to pursue Devin Booker. And the story mentions that his low-scoring season last year, his worst shooting year, how much money it's going to cost, the fact that they believe, Houston that is, believes that Phoenix is going to extend Devin Booker, and that they don't really want to empty this roster out just to get Devin Booker, and Jalen Green's continued development. That is all of the reasons why they pointed out why the interest in Devin Booker has cooled. But then the Athletic story goes on to say this about the Suns and the Rockets. Quote, "This is not to say the Rockets and Suns are not in communication. On the contrary, Phoenix is aggressive in pursuit of A, trading Kevin Durant, and B, regaining full control of their draft capital, starting with the number 10 pick in next month's draft," team sources said. Since the conclusion of the season, Houston has fielded several calls from Phoenix, who have since gradually lowered their asking price for Durant, sources said. There is a price where the Rockets would be interested, but with a fear of breaking up their roster for a 36-year-old coming off injury, doubt remains over a deal materializing, end quote. Can you smell that? Can you smell it? That's the desperation of the Phoenix Suns. Not Houston calling Phoenix, Phoenix calling Houston, which is how we have always positioned this. It has always been viewed through the lens of Phoenix is the one doing a lot of the phone calls. They're the ones that are picking up the phone and dialing out. The calls aren't coming in from Houston. There's not a Houston area code on the other end of the phone line. They're the ones dialing out, and the Phoenix area code is showing up on the Houston phones. The thing that just sticks out like a sore thumb to me, they are gradually lowering their asking price. Now, you can spin this 2 ways. You can spin it into the desperation that they know that they have to trade Kevin Durant, and there's going to come a point where they don't care what the return is. They just need to move on. Or the way that I would position it is they're not going to be stuck in their ways. They are not set in, we have to get this or we're not trading Kevin Durant. Them moving the goalposts a little bit might be an encouraging sign of, hey, they're not steadfast in their belief of we have to get 2 players and 2 picks, and one of those picks has to be a first-round pick, and we need some pick swaps, and the player needs to be a starter. Now, we've said 2 players, one being a starter, one with some potential, a draft pick, feels like the ideal landing spot here if you're Phoenix. That would make us all feel happy about this return. But them being flexible in what they get back could be spinned as a good thing. But I don't like reading that this team is aggressively calling Houston, aggressively trying to pursue this trade. And their aggressiveness is taking them to a place of almost potentially full-on desperation of, oh, okay, you won't do this, but would you do this? It's like you're in high school trying to get the girl to ask you to go to prom, and you just keep trying new ways to ask the girl, even though she said no over and over and over again. Well, what about this? And you just look more and more desperate every time the girl says no, and then you come up with a brand new scheme to try to get the girl to go to prom with you. That's what this starts to reek of. They have to trade Kevin Durant. They know that. I know they would love, in an ideal world, to get the number 10 overall pick back. I don't think you need to get the number 10 pick back in order to successfully trade Kevin Durant and get yourself a good package. Minnesota is going to be all over Kevin Durant. The Knicks, we'll talk about them in hour number 2 of the program, could be all over Kevin Durant. I saw a rumor, take it for what it's worth, Atlanta might be interested in Kevin Durant. there are going to be enough suitors to where I think you're going to be able to get the right trade package back. You don't need to be desperate to say it's the 10th pick or bust. I get why you want that pick back, but I don't think you need to get that pick back in order for this to be a successful trade. But boy, just from this one article, can you feel the desperation? Can you smell the desperation of the Phoenix Suns if that they are gradually lowering their asking price? All right, well, if you won't do this, will you do this? All right, you won't do that. Would you do this? And then slowly, you start to look like the fool. You start to look like you're going to get swindled in this deal. And the one thing the Phoenix Suns cannot afford is to be swindled in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, the summer of Durant, which it feels like we are just a head coach hire away from it fully being the summer of Durant.